Admiral Ta of the Galactic Hegemony stood rigid on the command deck, eyes fixed on the holographic display. The vast darkness of space stretched before them, punctuated by distant stars and the occasional nebula cloud. For centuries, the hegemony had maintained complete dominance over this sector of the galaxy. 17 species united under one banner, one law, one purpose, and in all that time, no unregistered ship had dared enter their territory without permission. Until today. Scan complete. Admiral. The ship bears no known signatures, reported Commander Dury, her four-fingered hands moving swiftly across the control panel. Her skin, normally a calm blue, had darkened with concern. Impossible. All civilized species are registered in our database, Ta muttered, leaning forward. His tall, slender frame cast a long shadow across the command deck. His people, the Vex, were known for their analytical minds and unwavering discipline. In his 30 cycles of military service, he had never encountered anything like this. The bridge crew worked in tense silence. The massive hegemony vessel, the Dominance was the pride of their fleet. With weapons capable of reducing planets to ash and shields that could withstand the heat of a dying star. They feared no enemy, yet the appearance of an unknown ship had sent an unfamiliar sensation through the crew. Uncertainty. Magnify the image, Ta ordered. The display zoomed in on the vessel. Unlike the smooth, curved designs favored by the hegemony, this ship was angular and aggressive. Its hull was dark gray with red markings along the sides. Various protrusions suggested weapons systems unlike anything in their records. The ship is designated Resolute according to intercepted communications, said the communications officer, a small reptilian being named Kiv. They're broadcasting on multiple frequencies. Ta studied the vessel. It was smaller than the Dominance, perhaps 1/5 the size, but something about its design suggested it was built for combat. The hull gleamed with unfamiliar alloys that scattered their scanning beams in unusual patterns. How did they enter our space without triggering the detection grid? Ta asked. The science officer, Nari, shook her head. Unknown, Admiral. Their propulsion system doesn't match any known configuration. They may have developed a new form of faster-than-light travel. This was troubling. The hegemony had long maintained technological superiority over all known species. The thought of an unknown civilization developing advanced technology independently was concerning. Open communications, ordered Ta. Let's see what we're dealing with. The main screen flickered, and the image of the strange ship was replaced by something that caused the entire bridge crew to fall silent. A face appeared. A face unlike any in the hegemony database. The being had flat features, with a small nose and thin lips. Its skin was a pale tan color, and short black hair framed its face. Most striking were its eyes. Dark, alert, and intelligent. The bridge crew murmured in shock. They had expected another insectoid species, or perhaps something aquatic or gaseous. But this was something entirely new. This is Captain Song of the Earth vessel Resolute *. We come in peace, but will defend ourselves if threatened. The voice was clear and confident. Ta noted with interest that the universal translator had no difficulty processing their language. This suggested their communication technology was at least compatible with hegemony standards. Earth? Ta questioned, turning to his science officer. Do we have any record of this world? Nari quickly searched the database. None, Admiral. It's not in any of our star charts. Ta straightened his uniform and addressed the screen. I am Admiral Ta of the Galactic Hegemony. You have entered regulated space without authorization. Identify your species and state your purpose. The being, Captain Song, showed no sign of intimidation. We are humans from the planet Earth. We are explorers seeking peaceful contact with other intelligent life forms. Ta's 4 eyes narrowed. Explorers? No species simply explored without permission from the hegemony. This was either extreme ignorance or deliberate provocation. This sector belongs to the hegemony. You will submit to inspection and registration. Power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. It was standard procedure. All new species encountered by the hegemony were assessed, catalogued, and integrated into the hierarchy based on their technological advancement and biological capabilities. Some became valued members. Others were relegated to resource worlds. The system had maintained peace for millennia. Captain Song's expression hardened. Her eyes, already intense, seemed to burn with an inner fire. "We submit to no one, Admiral. We respect your territorial claims and are willing to negotiate as equals, but we will not surrender our ship or our sovereignty." The bridge fell silent. No one spoke to a hegemony admiral this way, especially not an unknown species encountering the might of the asterisk dominance asterisk for the first time. Commander Dury moved closer to Ta. "Admiral, our scans indicate their weapons systems are powering up. Defensive shields are at maximum." Tai studied the human captain. There was something in her stance, in her unwavering gaze, that gave him pause. Either these humans were incredibly brave or incredibly foolish. Perhaps both. "You misunderstand your situation, Captain Song," Ta said coldly. "This is not a negotiation. The hegemony has ruled these stars for 10,000 years. Your single vessel, impressive as it may be, cannot hope to stand against us." Song's reply was calm. "We have no wish for conflict, Admiral. But history has taught us that freedom must sometimes be defended. We will not fire first, but we will respond to any aggression." Tay's patience was wearing thin. The Council would expect him to enforce protocol. An unregistered species with advanced technology could not be allowed to roam freely. It set a dangerous precedent. "Scan their weapons capabilities," he ordered Dury quietly. The commander worked quickly. "Advanced energy weapons, Admiral. Power signatures suggest they're more efficient than our standard arrays. And their shield harmonics are unusual. They may be more resilient than their size would indicate. Interesting. This small vessel might actually pose a challenge." Ta considered his options. The diplomatic approach had failed. Now came military resolution. He turned to his tactical officer. "Target their propulsion systems. Disable, don't destroy. I want that ship intact for study." "Yes, Admiral." Tai addressed the human once more. "Captain Song, this is your final warning. Submit or face the consequences." Song shook her head. "We cannot comply, Admiral. But I urge you to reconsider. First contact between our species shouldn't be marked by bloodshed." Tay's mandibles clicked with irritation. Such defiance was unheard of. He turned to his crew, voice ringing throughout the command deck. "Red alert. Human warship detected. Prepare for battle." The bridge erupted into activity. Warning lights pulsed crimson throughout the massive ship. The communication screen went dark as Captain Song ended the transmission. The tactical officer spoke up. "Weapons locked on target, Admiral. Awaiting your command." Todd paused, studying the small human vessel on the display. Something told him this would not be the simple disciplinary action he had expected. Something about these humans, their confidence, their technology, their boldness, suggested this encounter might mark the beginning of a significant change in the galaxy. "Fire," he ordered, and the darkness of space lit up with the first shots of a conflict that would reshape the balance of power among the stars. The Grand Council chamber of the Galactic Hegemony buzzed with nervous energy. 17 representatives from the member species sat in tiered seats around a central holographic display showing the recent battle footage. The mood was tense. Defeat was not something the hegemony had experienced in generations. High Counselor Bin rose from his seat, his ceremonial robes flowing around his squat, powerful frame. The Moro species were known for their physical strength and their pride, both of which were evident as Bin addressed the emergency session. "These humans are nothing but primitives," he declared, his deep voice echoing through the chamber. "Their homeworld only achieved space travel within their last century. This incident is merely an anomaly." Several council members nodded in agreement, eager to dismiss the threat. Admiral Ta stood silently at the edge of the chamber, watching the reactions. As the commander who had engaged the human vessel, he felt obligated to provide a more nuanced perspective. "With respect, High Counselor," Ta said, stepping forward into the light, "I believe we would be unwise to underestimate these humans." He gestured to the control panel, and the holographic display changed to show detailed scans of the Resolute Asterisk. The human vessel displays advanced shielding and weapon systems inconsistent with their known technology level. Their gravitational manipulation technology, in particular, exceeds our current capabilities. The science representative, a thin, pale being named Ju, leaned forward with interest. How could a species so young develop such technology? Unknown, admitted Ta. But the evidence is undeniable. Their ship was able to absorb energy from our primary weapons and redirect it. I've never seen anything like it. High Counselor Bin waved a dismissive hand. His species had 4 arms, and he used one to pound the table for emphasis. A single ship poses no threat to our armada. Bin dismissed. Perhaps they stole the technology. Perhaps they found an ancient vessel and repurposed it. What matters is containment. We will send 5 warships to capture this vessel and learn its secrets. Admiral Ta studied the battle projections floating before him. The simulation showed 5 hegemony cruisers surrounding the much smaller human vessel. In theory, it was an overwhelming force, and yet, "I recommend caution," Ta said quietly. "There is something unusual about these humans. Their captain showed no fear when facing our dreadnought. It suggests either ignorance or confidence, and I do not believe they are ignorant." Bin's multiple eyes narrowed. "Your caution is noted, Admiral, but the Council has decided. You will lead the task force to capture the human vessel. We expect success this time." Ta bowed slightly, acknowledging the order while hiding his concern. As he left the chamber, he reviewed the battle again in his mind. The human ship had moved with unexpected precision, almost as if it could predict the hegemony's standard attack patterns. That should have been impossible for a first-contact species. Aboard the Resolute Asterisk, Captain Song stood before the main view screen in the command center. The ship's bridge was a model of efficiency, compact, but with all necessary systems within easy reach of the crew. Unlike the massive ornate command centers of hegemony vessels, the human ship prioritized function over form. "Status report," Song ordered, her voice calm despite the situation. Chief Engineer Pak looked up from his console. "Shields at 82%, Captain. The new regenerative matrix is working better than expected. Weapon systems fully operational. We took some damage to the port sensor array, but repairs are underway." Captain Song nodded, pleased with the report. She turned to address her crew. The 20 men and women on the bridge watched her with attentive eyes. Many were young. This was humanity's first deep space mission, after all. But all were highly trained and selected from the best Earth had to offer. "The hegemony has dispatched 5 warships," she announced, bringing up the tactical display. "Based on their communication patterns, they expect us to retreat or surrender." Lieutenant Hua, the tactical officer, smiled as he studied the approaching formation. A young man with a keen mind for strategy, Hua had graduated top of his class in the Earth Defense Academy. "They don't know humans very well, do they?" he remarked, already plotting potential evasion patterns. Captain Song returned his smile. "No, they don't. And we're going to use that to our advantage." She gestured to the 3D tactical display. "They're using a standard encirclement formation. 5 ships, evenly spaced, attempting to box us in. Standard tactics for an enemy they consider inferior." She turned to her navigation officer. "Lieutenant Min, prepare jump coordinates. We'll let them think they have us trapped before we make our move." "Yes, Captain." Song addressed the entire bridge. "The hegemony has existed for thousands of years without serious challenge. They've grown complacent. Their tactics are predictable because they haven't needed to innovate. We, on the other hand, had to fight for every technological advancement. Remember your training. Remember what's at stake. Earth is counting on us to show the galaxy that humanity won't be easily conquered. The crew responded with determined nods. They all understood the gravity of their mission. Humanity had spent decades preparing for first contact, studying the distant signals that revealed the existence of the hegemony. They knew they were technologically outmatched in many areas, but they also had advantages, innovations born from humanity's unique history and perspective. When the hegemony ships arrived, they deployed in standard formation, just as Captain Song had predicted. 5 cruisers, each 3 times the size of the Resolute positioned themselves in a pentagon around the human vessel. Admiral Ta watched from the command ship, the Inevitable *. Open communications, he ordered. Captain Song's face appeared on the screen, as calm as before. Admiral Ta, I see you've brought friends this time. Captain Song, Tay replied formally. You are surrounded. Power down your systems and prepare to be boarded. This is your final opportunity to surrender peacefully. Song shook her head. I'm afraid we still can't comply with that request, Admiral. But I would like to avoid unnecessary violence. Perhaps we could discuss. The time for discussion has passed, interrupted Ta, though he found himself respecting the human's composure. You have 1 minute to comply before we open fire. The communication ended, and Ta turned to his tactical officer. Prepare to disable their engines on my mark. Remember, the Council wants the ship intact. The minute passed in tense silence. The human vessel remained motionless, seemingly accepting its fate. They're not surrendering, Admiral, reported his second-in-command. Very well. Comments. Before Ta could finish his order, the Resolute suddenly accelerated at an impossible rate, shooting straight up relative to the plane of the hegemony formation. Track them, Ta commanded, but the human ship was already executing a maneuver that defied conventional space tactics. It spun 180 degrees while still accelerating, then activated what Ta now recognized as its gravitational pulse system. The effect was immediate and devastating. The pulse created a localized distortion in space-time, momentarily increasing the mass of 2 hegemony cruisers while decreasing the mass of the Resolute itself. The cruisers, suddenly heavy and sluggish, collided with each other as their navigation systems failed to compensate for the sudden change. Impossible, whispered Ta's science officer. They're manipulating gravity itself as a weapon. The Resolute wasn't finished. It curved around in a tight arc that would have crushed any hegemony crew with the G-forces involved, then fired precision shots at the engines of the 3rd cruiser. The human weapons weren't particularly powerful by hegemony standards, but they were targeted with surgical precision at previously unknown weak points in the cruiser's design. How do they know where to hit us? Demanded Ta, watching as the 3rd cruiser's engines went dark. The battle, if it could even be called that, lasted less than 10 minutes. 3 hegemony ships disabled, their systems overloaded by the gravitational fluctuations they were never designed to withstand. Admiral Ta made the difficult decision to retreat with his remaining 2 vessels before they suffered the same fate. As the Inevitable limped away, Ta stood at the viewport, watching the distant figure of the Resolute grow smaller. In his 30 years of service, Admiral Ta had never experienced such a defeat. More troubling than the loss itself was the implication. If one human ship could do this, what might a fleet be capable of? The humans hadn't destroyed any of the hegemony vessels, though they clearly had the opportunity. Instead, they had disabled them with minimal casualties. It was not the action of bloodthirsty conquerors, but neither was it the behavior of a submissive species willing to accept hegemony rule. For the first time in his career, Admiral Ta felt genuine uncertainty about the future of the galactic hegemony. These humans were something new, something unexpected. And if there was one thing the ancient hegemony was unprepared for, it was the unexpected. The council chamber had transformed since the emergency session. Where once confidence and dismissal had reigned, Now a tense silence filled the room. The 17 representatives of the hegemony sat rigid in their seats, all eyes focused on the central podium where scientist Jin prepared her report. Jin, a slender amphibious being with iridescent skin, was the hegemony's leading xenobiologist. Her four-fingered hands moved gracefully as she organized her data tablets. Unlike many council sessions, this one had drawn a full audience. Word of the human ship's victory had spread throughout the hegemony leadership. "Honorable Council," Jin began, her voice soft but clear, "I have completed my preliminary analysis of the species known as humans. My findings are concerning." The holographic display activated, showing a rotating image of Earth. Blue oceans, white clouds, green and brown landmasses. It looked peaceful from a distance. "Their world would be considered uninhabitable by 11 of our member species," reported Jin to the council. Her webbed fingers highlighted different aspects of the planet as she spoke. High gravity, atmospheric toxins, extreme temperature variations, dangerous fauna. Humans evolved in conditions that would kill most spacefaring species. Murmurs spread through the chamber. High Counselor Bin, still smarting from the defeat of his strategy, leaned forward. "Explain further," he demanded. Jin nodded and changed the display. Now they saw close-up images of Earth's environments: scorching deserts, frozen tundra, dense jungles, and storm-tossed seas. The planet they call Earth has gravity 1.3 times stronger than our standard. Their atmosphere contains oxygen in concentrations that would be toxic to Moro, Vex, and Quelni physiology. Their world experiences temperature variations from -50 to +50 degrees on their scale, often in the same region within a single planetary cycle. She changed the display again, showing images of Earth's predators: lions, bears, sharks, and other creatures that made several council members shift uncomfortably. Most notably, their world is filled with apex predators. The humans evolved not as the strongest or fastest species, but as the most adaptable. They can survive in nearly any environment their planet offers, from frozen wastelands to scorching deserts. Admiral Te, standing at the side of the chamber, nodded slowly. This explains their resilience. During the battle, their ship sustained damage that should have crippled it, yet they continued fighting. Their systems rerouted power in ways our analysts still don't fully understand. Jin agreed. Their entire evolutionary history has been shaped by adversity. Unlike many hegemony species that evolved in stable, specialized environments, humans adapted to constant change and threat. The display changed again. Now it showed humans in various activities: swimming underwater, climbing mountains, running across plains, working in extreme heat and cold. Physically, they have several notable adaptations. Their endurance exceeds that of any known sentient species. Their thermal regulation system, what they call sweating, allows them to control body temperature efficiently during extended physical activity. Their bones heal from breaks, their skin can repair significant damage, and their immune systems are remarkably aggressive. One council member, a gaseous entity contained in a transparent suit, pulsed with blue light, their species equivalent of a scoff. Physical endurance matters little in space combat. Our technology far exceeds theirs. Jin paused, then activated the next part of her presentation. The intelligence brief included captured footage of human military training. Soldiers running for hours without rest, surviving in hostile environments, adapting tactics in real time. This footage was extracted from their public information networks, Jin explained. They call this Special Forces training. Notice how they continue despite physical exhaustion, pain, and environmental challenges. The council watched in silence as humans pushed through mud, swam in freezing water, carried heavy loads over long distances, and went days with minimal sleep or food. They're persistence predators, Jin explained. Historically, they would chase prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. This mentality permeates their culture. They simply don't give up. Jin changed the display again. Now it showed human achievements. Massive cities built in inhospitable locations, bridges spanning impossible gaps, ships navigating treacherous waters. Their entire civilization reflects this persistence. Where other species might avoid challenges, humans seem drawn to them. They climb mountains simply because they exist. They explore dangerous caves and oceans. They intentionally push their physical and technological limits. Admiral Ta stepped forward, addressing the Council directly. I've reviewed all battle reports from our engagement with the human vessel. Their tactics were unlike anything in our combat database. They didn't follow any recognizable pattern. When our ships adapted to one approach, they immediately switched to another. He activated his own data pad, showing tactical replays of the battle. Notice here, when we disabled their port shield generators, rather than retreating to protect that flank as any rational commander would, they actually turned the damaged side toward us, appearing vulnerable. When our ships moved to exploit this weakness, they revealed it was a trap. High Counselor Bin's multiple eyes narrowed. Are you suggesting these humans outsmarted our best tactical systems? I am stating it as fact, Tay replied firmly. Their Captain Song anticipated our responses. She used our own protocols against us. Jin nodded agreement. This aligns with my findings. Human problem solving is highly adaptable. They excel at lateral thinking, finding unexpected solutions and connections. Another council member, a crystalline being who rarely spoke, chimed in. How did they develop such advanced technology so quickly? Our records suggest they only achieved spaceflight a few of their centuries ago. Jin's expression became grave. That is perhaps most concerning of all. Their technological development follows an exponential curve rather than the linear progression of most species. She displayed a chart showing the rapid advancement of human technology. From primitive flight to space travel took them less than a century. From basic computers to artificial intelligence took a similar time frame. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. A species that adapted so quickly, that thrived on challenge, and that refused to acknowledge conventional limitations was unlike anything the hegemony had encountered in its long history. Admiral Ta moved to the center of the chamber, standing beside Jin. There is one more factor the Council should consider. He hesitated, choosing his words carefully. The human vessel did not destroy our ships when it had the opportunity. It disabled them with precision strikes, minimizing casualties. This suggests they are not inherently aggressive, despite their predatory evolution. High Counselor Bin snorted. You find comfort in their mercy, Admiral. I see only the confidence of a predator that doesn't fear its prey. Perhaps, Tay acknowledged. But it offers an opportunity. If humans are indeed driven by challenge rather than conquest, there may be diplomatic options. Jin added her perspective. Their communications suggest a complex social structure with emphasis on cooperation within their group. They form strong bonds and protect their own fiercely. Tay realized with growing concern that the hegemony's usual strategy of overwhelming force would not work against an enemy that refused to acknowledge defeat. Everything in their history suggested that humans would simply adapt, regroup, and try again with new tactics. The hegemony had never needed to innovate its military approach. Its technological superiority had always been sufficient. Until now. We have three options, Ta stated clearly. We can attempt to contain them with a larger force, we can seek diplomatic resolution, or we can ignore them and hope they don't expand further into our territory. The third option is unacceptable, Bin declared. No species operates in hegemony space without oversight. And the first option carries significant risk, added Ta. If one human ship can disable 3 of our cruisers, a human fleet might cause unprecedented damage. The crystalline council member's voice resonated through the chamber. Then diplomacy remains our best course. But not from a position of weakness. We must demonstrate our power while offering terms. Bin nodded reluctantly. Agreed. Admiral Tai, you have encountered these humans directly. You will lead our response. Assemble a fleet of 50 ships. Show them the true might of the hegemony, then offer them terms of submission. Ta bowed slightly, acknowledging the order while hiding his doubts. He had seen something in Captain Song's eyes, a determination that 50 ships might not overcome. Humans had evolved on a death world, where every day was a fight for survival against environment and predators alike. Such a species did not yield easily. As he left the chamber, Ta found himself wondering, for the first time in his long career, if the hegemony's approach of demanding submission from all species was sustainable. These humans, with their persistence and adaptability, might just be the challenge that forced the hegemony to evolve its own thinking. And deep down, in a part of himself he barely acknowledged, he found that prospect strangely exciting. Admiral Ta stood on the bridge of the Dominance *, his flagship, and the most powerful vessel in the hegemony fleet. Around him, crew members worked with focused precision, preparing for the coming conflict. Through the main viewport, he could see his assembled armada, 30 warships of various classes, from nimble cruisers to massive dreadnoughts. It was the largest hegemony fleet deployed in generations. "All ships report ready, Admiral," said Commander Dury, checking the final status reports. "Weapons charge, shields at maximum strength." Ta nodded. The Council had been clear. This show of force was meant to bring the humans to heel. After the embarrassing defeat of their previous encounter, the hegemony needed to reassert its dominance in this sector. "Any sign of the human vessels?" Ta asked. "Long-range sensors detect multiple ships approaching at sublight speed," reported the sensor officer. "Estimated arrival in 10 minutes." Ta felt a mixture of anticipation and unease. Despite the overwhelming force at his command, he couldn't shake the feeling that these humans would not be easily subdued. Still, the Council had given him clear orders. The humans would submit or be destroyed. "Open a channel to all ships," Ta commanded. When the communication officer nodded, he addressed his fleet. "This is Admiral Ta. Today we face an unknown species that has challenged hegemony authority. Our mission is to secure their surrender with minimal damage to their vessels. The Council wishes to study their technology, but make no mistake, if they resist, we are authorized to use lethal force. Stand ready." As the minutes passed, tension grew on the bridge. The tactical display showed the approaching human ships, now close enough to identify. 6 vessels detected, announced the sensor officer. 5 smaller ships surrounding one larger vessel, designated as their flagship. The tactical officer, a veteran of many campaigns, studied the display with concern. "Their formation is unusual, Admiral. They're maintaining a dynamic defensive pattern I've never seen before." Ta watched as the human battle group arrived with precision. 5 ships moving in formation around their flagship Vanguard *. Unlike hegemony vessels, which typically arrange themselves in rigid geometric patterns, the human ships seemed to flow around each other, constantly adjusting their positions in subtle ways. "The humans are outnumbered 6-1, Commander Dury observed, her tone suggesting confidence in their superior numbers. "And yet they advance," Tay replied quietly. There was something both admirable and troubling about their boldness. The human ships continued their approach, showing no signs of hesitation. Ta had expected them to halt at a safe distance for negotiations. Instead, they pressed forward into the heart of the hegemony formation. "They're within weapons range, Admiral," the tactical officer reported. "Awaiting your command." Ta hesitated. Something about the humans' approach felt wrong, as if they were being led into a trap despite their overwhelming numerical advantage. "Open communications," he ordered. "Let's give them one final chance to surrender." The main screen activated, showing Captain Song on the bridge of the Vanguard *. Her vessel was significantly larger than the Resolute *, though still smaller than Ta's flagship. The human captain looked calm and composed, as if this confrontation was a minor inconvenience rather than a potential extinction-level event for her species. "Captain Song," Ta began formally, "the galactic hegemony demands your immediate surrender. Your ships will power down weapons and submit to boarding. Resistance will be met with overwhelming force. Som's expression remained neutral. Admiral Ta, I had hoped our previous encounter might have led to more productive discussions. The Earth Confederation has no quarrel with the hegemony, but we will not surrender our sovereignty. Before Tai could respond, his tactical officer called out urgently, Admiral, the human ships are powering up weapon systems. All ships, defensive positions. Ta commanded, prepare tow. He never finished the order. The battle erupted across the stellar backdrop with a suddenness that caught even the experienced admiral by surprise. The human ships didn't attack as expected, by focusing fire on key targets. Instead, they scattered, each vessel engaging multiple hegemony ships simultaneously. Human ships moved in unpredictable patterns, breaking formation only to regroup in more advantageous positions. They targeted command systems rather than weapons, causing confusion in the hegemony fleet. Several hegemony captains reported loss of communications or navigation systems, leaving their powerful weapons intact but unable to target the agile human vessels effectively. They're not trying to destroy us, Tad realized aloud. They're disabling our coordination. The tactical display was chaos. Hegemony ships, unable to communicate effectively with each other, began firing at any target that came within range. The humans exploited this confusion, darting between larger hegemony vessels and causing them to fire upon each other. Admiral, called the communications officer, we're receiving a transmission from the Resolute *. Captain Song's voice came through on an open channel as the Resolute * executed a daring maneuver between two hegemony dreadnoughts, causing them to fire upon each other. The nimble human ship rolled and pivoted in ways that should have been impossible for a vessel its size. Admiral Tai, this conflict is unnecessary. Som's voice was calm despite the chaos surrounding her ship. We seek neither conquest nor subjugation, only recognition of our sovereignty. Tai watched in growing concern as three of his dreadnoughts collided while attempting to track the same human vessel. The collision wasn't severe enough to destroy the ships, but it left them tangled and vulnerable. Status report, he demanded. Commander Dury's voice was tight with stress. 8 ships reporting critical system failures. 5 more have lost weapons control. 4 are reporting collisions with friendly vessels. The humans are. She stopped, staring at the tactical display in disbelief. What is it? Tai asked. The human ships, they're forming a new pattern. It's like nothing I've ever seen. The 6 human vessels had regrouped into a perfect hexagon formation. As Tai and his crew watched, energy began to flow visibly between the ships, creating a web of brilliant blue light. What are they doing? Whispered the tactical officer. The answer came moments later, when the humans activated their quantum phase shields, technology the hegemony had theorized but never developed. Ta knew the battle had reached its conclusion. The energy web between the human ships expanded outward, passing through hegemony vessels without damaging them. But as the energy field passed, ship after ship lost power, their systems shutting down completely. Emergency power only. Tide ordered as the energy wave approached the dominance *. Divert all resources to life support. The blue energy washed over Ta's flagship, and for a moment, everything went dark. When emergency lighting activated seconds later, Ta looked out at his fleet. 30 of the hegemony's most powerful warships now drifted helplessly in space, their weapons and propulsion systems offline. Only the dominance * maintained minimal functionality, likely by design. The humans wanted to keep communications open. Admiral, said the communications officer, we're being hailed by the Vanguard *. Ta straightened his uniform, dignity intact despite the defeat. On screen, Captain Song appeared, her expression serious but not triumphant. Admiral Ta, your fleet will regain power in approximately 1 hour. No permanent damage has been done to your vessels, and your crews are in no danger. Ta nodded, appreciating the professional courtesy. You could have destroyed us. That was never our intention, Song replied. The Earth Confederation believes in peaceful coexistence, but we will not be subjugated. For the first time in his long career, Tata found himself in a position of total defeat. Yet strangely, he felt a growing respect for these humans. They had won decisively without taking a single hegemony life. The Council will not accept this outcome, Ta warned. They will send more ships. Song nodded. We understand. But perhaps you could deliver a message to your council. The Confederation is prepared to establish diplomatic relations with the hegemony as equals. We have much to offer each other through cooperation rather than conflict. Ta considered her words. The hegemony had never treated any species as equal. For thousands of years, they had either ruled over other civilizations or destroyed those who resisted. But these humans had demonstrated capabilities beyond anything the hegemony had encountered. I will deliver your message, Ta said finally, but I cannot guarantee it will be well received. Song smiled slightly. That's all we ask, Admiral. A chance for dialogue rather than destruction. As the communication ended, Tay turned to look at his disabled fleet. 30 of the most powerful vessels in the galaxy, neutralized without a single casualty by 6 human ships using technology the hegemony had only theorized about. For the first time, Tai allowed himself to consider a future where the hegemony might need to adapt its approach to the galaxy. These humans, with their persistence, adaptability, and surprising mercy, represented something new. Perhaps, he thought, it was time for the hegemony to evolve as well. Commander Dury approached cautiously. Your orders, Admiral. Ta straightened his shoulders. Prepare a full report for the Council. Omit nothing. They need to understand exactly what we're facing. He paused, looking out at the stars, and include my personal recommendation that we consider the humans' offer of diplomatic relations. The Council won't like that, Dury warned. No, Tai agreed. They won't. But for the first time in 1,000 years, the hegemony doesn't have a choice. The Grand Council chamber of the Galactic hegemony had never witnessed such tension. For thousands of years, these halls had hosted ceremonies of submission, where newly discovered species pledged loyalty to the mighty hegemony. Today was different. Today, the Council awaited not supplicants, but equals. The Council chamber had never been so silent. The 17 representatives sat motionless in their ornate chairs, each lost in private thoughts. Some worried about the future of the hegemony. Others calculated potential advantages in the changing political landscape. A few simply struggled to comprehend how their perfect system had been so thoroughly challenged. Admiral Ta stood before the gathered representatives of 17 species. His recent defeat had not diminished his stature. If anything, the respect shown to him by the human commander had enhanced his standing among his peers. He was the only hegemony official who had directly engaged with the humans and survived with his honor intact. The human delegation will arrive within the hour, Tai announced, his voice steady. I recommend we approach these negotiations with openness rather than hostility. High Counselor Bin shifted uncomfortably in his seat. The massive Moro's 4 arms were crossed defensively across his chest. These humans destroyed half our fleet, Admiral. They come here not by invitation but by force. With respect, Counselor, Tai replied, they disabled our ships without casualties. Had they wished to destroy us, they could have. Instead, they requested dialogue. The scientist Jin stepped forward to stand beside Ta. My analysis supports the Admiral's position. Human history shows a pattern of fierce resistance, followed by generous peace terms. They fight not for conquest, but for recognition. Recognition, scoffed another council member, a gaseous entity whose containment suit glowed with angry red pulses. No species has ever demanded recognition from the hegemony. All serve or perish. That has been our way since the founding. Tai took a deep breath. Perhaps it is time for our ways to evolve. The humans possess technology we have only theorized about. Their quantum phase shields alone could revolutionize our defensive capabilities. The chamber erupted in murmurs. Technology sharing had never been part of the hegemony's approach. Advanced species contributed their knowledge to the collective, while lesser species provided resources and labor. The concept of mutual exchange was foreign. The crystalline council member, whose species was among the oldest in the hegemony, chimed in with a resonant voice. We have existed for 10,000 years by adapting when necessary. Perhaps this is such a time. Before further debate could occur, the chamber's massive doors slid open. The human delegation had arrived. Captain Song entered alongside her diplomatic officer, Commander Wu. They carried no weapons but moved with confidence born of strength. 3 other humans followed, specialists in various fields, according to the briefing documents they had sent ahead. The humans looked small compared to many of the council species. Captain Song, despite her commanding presence, stood barely half as tall as High Counselor Bin. Yet not a single being in the chamber doubted the humans' capability. "Welcome to the Hegemony Council," announced the crystalline elder, serving as speaker for this historic meeting. "You stand in halls that have witnessed the rise and fall of civilizations." Commander Wu stepped forward. Unlike Captain Song, whose focus was military, Wu specialized in interspecies relations. His calm demeanor and measured voice brought a soothing presence to the tense chamber. "The Soul Confederation thanks you for this opportunity," Commander Wu began. "We believe there is much our civilizations can learn from each other." High Counselor Bin leaned forward, his multiple eyes narrowing. "You come before us after defeating our fleet, human. Most would call that an act of war." Captain Song met his gaze steadily. "We defended ourselves with minimal force. Had we sought war, your ships would not have returned home. The fact remains," continued Bin, "that no species operates within hegemony space without oversight and contribution. Our system has maintained peace for millennia." Commander Wu nodded respectfully. "We understand the value of stability. Earth's own history is marked by conflict, which is precisely why we seek peaceful relations now. However, we cannot and will not surrender our independence. The Soul Confederation proposes a new type of relationship, alliance rather than subjugation." The concept was so foreign that several council members required their translators to confirm they had understood correctly. Alliance? Between the mighty hegemony and a single planet species. It was unprecedented. Yet, as the discussions progressed over the next several hours, a remarkable thing happened. The initial hostility gave way to curiosity, and then to genuine interest. The discussions revealed surprising commonalities despite vast biological differences. Humans valued community while fiercely protecting individual freedoms, a paradox that fascinated the hierarchical hegemony species. "You mean each human can choose their own path?" asked a methane-breathing council member, struggling to comprehend. "Without clear directives from your leadership caste." "We have no castes," explained one of the human specialists, a sociologist named Dr. Kang. "Each human is born with equal rights and opportunities, at least in theory. Our strength comes from this diversity of thought and approach." The council members exchanged glances. Such a system should have collapsed into chaos. Yet somehow, these humans had not only survived but thrived, developing technology that rivaled or exceeded the hegemonies in several key areas. As the formal meeting concluded, Admiral Ta found himself impressed by the humans' diplomatic skill. They had neither threatened nor capitulated. Instead, they had offered concrete benefits to alliance, trade routes, technological exchange, and joint scientific ventures. They had identified resources the hegemony needed and suggested fair terms of exchange. Most surprisingly, they had proposed joint security operations against the savage Krell swarms from the galactic rim, a threat the hegemony had struggled to contain for centuries. 3 days of intense negotiations followed. The council chambers, normally a place of brief audiences and quick judgments, became a forum for genuine dialogue. The humans proved adaptable in ways that astonished the hegemony representatives. They adjusted their communication styles to suit each species' preferences. They demonstrated respect for hegemony traditions while gently suggesting alternatives. When the Sol Accords were finally signed, establishing humans as equal partners rather than subjects, the ceremony was broadcast throughout hegemony space. Many citizens were shocked. Some were outraged. But others, particularly younger generations, found themselves intrigued by this new approach. The formal signing complete, Admiral Tai approached Captain Song privately as the delegations prepared to depart. They stood before a viewport overlooking the massive space station that served as the hegemony's capital. "Your species is unlike any we've encountered," he admitted. "I'm curious to see how you will change the galaxy." Song smiled. "That's the thing about humans, Admiral. We never stop evolving." She paused, looking out at the stars. The same might be true for the hegemony now. Ta considered this. His entire career had been dedicated to maintaining the hegemony's dominance. Yet facing the end of his service years, he found himself strangely optimistic about this new direction. "Change is difficult for ancient institutions," he said. "There will be resistance from many quarters." "We understand," Song replied. "Earth went through similar growing pains when our nations finally united. The transition from competition to cooperation is never smooth, but the benefits outweigh the costs." Ta nodded thoughtfully. "I believe you are right, and I find myself grateful that your species chose restraint in our conflict. Many in your position would have sought revenge or domination. We've tried those paths in our history," Song said quietly. "They led nowhere good. Besides, the galaxy is vast and largely unexplored. We need allies more than subjects." As preparations concluded, Tai and Song walked together to the docking bay. Hegemony officials and human delegates mingled with growing comfort, exchanging contact information and making plans for follow-up meetings. "Will you continue as a military commander?" Tai asked Song. She shook her head. "I'm being reassigned to lead a joint exploration initiative, if your council approves it. The Vanguard will be refitted as a research vessel, with crew members from both our civilizations." Ta found himself smiling, a rare expression for his species. "I may request assignment to that initiative myself. I find I have much to learn about the universe and about humans." As their ships departed in formation, hegemony and human vessels side by side, a new era of galactic cooperation had begun, forged in the crucible of conflict, but tempered by mutual respect. Aboard the Vanguard Captain Song watched the hegemony capital grow smaller through the viewport. Lieutenant Hua joined her, his expression thoughtful. "Do you think it will last, Captain? This alliance?" Song considered the question. "Nothing lasts forever, Lieutenant. But I believe we've set a new course for both our civilizations." She smiled slightly. "And if anyone threatens this peace, red alert. Human warships detected." Hua finished with a grin. "Exactly," Song agreed. "But this time, we'll face whatever comes together." The Vanguard accelerated to light speed, blazing a trail that others would follow. A path toward a future where strength came not from domination, but from cooperation, where differences were celebrated rather than subjugated, and where humanity's unique perspective would help reshape a galaxy that had remained unchanged for far too long.